Hello there, my name is Charitha Goonewardena. In this video presentation, I would like to demonstrate and explain to you about how I implemented my web application according to the event specification. As for the coursework, it was tasked to develop a website similar to the Reddit using Code Ignite framework. Reddit is a news aggregator website which allows community users to publish news into the website. As for this assignment, it was tasked to develop such system with minimalist features such as link submission, vote for particular link, comment, link sorting, pagination, and etc. For this coursework, I have implemented a website called Zinc Link with complete set of requirements as mentioned before. I have broken down the structure of this video into 6 main components, respectively walkthrough of the web application, explanation of mockups and diagrams, explanation of requirements, database design, class diagram, and finally the explanation of structure of the code. I would like to start by taking a complete tour of the implemented website. So let's begin with the login screen. User can enter to the website by providing user credentials. If a particular user hasn't registered to the website, he or she can register themselves to the system via filling this form. I have fully validated this page since users are tend to make mistakes. When a particular user registers to the system, user will be navigated to the login page. Profile picture of the user and email address have been automatically filled out and password field will be left blank. Home screen of the implemented web application looks like this. Logged user's profile picture and name will be displayed on the top right corner. Most of the user interactions are happening in this page, including link submission, vote for a link, link filtering, pagination, and etc. Now let's take a look at link submission. To submit a link, user have to click on this button. This is a dialog and it contains all the fields to submit a link, including image of the link and text to categorize. This dialog box is fully validated. When users submit a link, that link will be appended to the link list. In here, it is just updating the link list content. In order to refresh only a particular area of the HTML, I have used Ajax. In this page, users can vote for links. When a user votes for a link, a sound clip will be played to the user. In this section, user will find link filtering actions. A user can either filter by publish date or number of votes. If a user wants to have a quick look of the description about a particular link, user may click on this icon. So description of the link would be revealed to the link section. When a user went to the bottom of the page, user will be able to see the page numbers. This is the pagination part of the link content. When a user clicks on a particular link's image, it will be navigated to the detailed description of the very same link. In this page, user can comment. If there are existing comments, user can reply for that. Both reply and comment features are properly validated. These buttons help to navigate through link posts. Users are allowed to go back and forth between linked lists as you can see. Moving on to the next part, I would like to talk about requirements of the web application. For a particular user, he or she should be able to do the following actions: submit a link, vote for links, comment for links, reply for comments, paginate through links, sort links, and finally directs to the actual URL. In order to accomplish the earlier mentioned actions, I had to come up with wireframes and mockups. This is the registration form mockup. This is the login screen wireframe. This is the home screen where most of the user interactions are happening. This is the detail page of a particular link. Let's continue by looking at the database design. To illustrate this point, I have come up with a ER diagram. As for this coursework, I have introduced 5 tables to the database, respectively user table, link table, vote table, comment table, and finally nested comment table, also known as reply. Now I'll briefly explain about tables individually. Let me start with user table. This table has been created to store data about users and it has 7 fields. User table's primary index is user ID and it is incrementing automatically. I have defined user ID as primary index because it will help in order to refer to a unique user. Since password field is a confidential field, system will encrypt the password field using MD5 encryption method. Since this MD5 encryption method always returns 32 hexadecimal string, I have limited the length of this field to 32 characters. The other important field of this table is image field. This is the heaviest field and it contains the base 64 string of the user profile picture. Since we cannot predict the length of this field, I have defined this field as text. Link table holds one of the critical aspects of the main system. To identify a particular link, I have introduced a primary index as link ID. Since a submitted link must have a corresponding user, the primary key user ID of the user table have been included to this table as a foreign key. Comments table is to hold the content of a particular comment. A comment belongs to a link, and to post a comment there must be a user. To keep the records of those two things, comment tables host a primary key of their corresponding tables, user ID and link ID. To identify a particular comment, an auto-incrementing field known as comment ID has been introduced to the table. Incomment table refers to nested comments. In here, nested comments represent all the replies for a particular comment. For a single comment, there can be multiple replies. In order to uniquely identify a particular reply, it has been introduced an auto-incremental field known as incomment ID. To maintain this table, it uses three foreign keys from other tables, respectively uComment ID, link ID, and user ID. uComment ID refers to the actual comment's ID, link ID refers to the link of the actual comment, and finally user ID holds a unique user. Vote is a subfield of a particular link, and to vote for a link there must be a user. Since vote doesn't need to identify uniquely, this doesn't have included a primary key. Even though there isn't a primary key, there are two foreign keys, respectively link ID and user ID. These two fields are primary keys of link table and user table. Moving on to the next section, let's take a look at class diagram. As for the design, the login view contains two forms to carry out user details in two perspectives. If the user is not a registered one, user could register via submitting registration forms. When a user registers to the system, users are allowed to log in. Users are logged in via submitting the login form to the login controller. Since register and login both functionalities occurs here, it uses a command module called sign module. Sign module is added to this application in order to bridge the gap between controller and the connected database. After a particular user successfully logged into the system should give functionalities to the users. Thus, for that in home view, it contains a lot of user functionalities and interactions. For instance, link submission. In order to submit a link to the system, user should submit link submit form to the home controller. Home controller has the control over the home view. Home controller uses user model in order to collect user information such as user avatar name and ID. Post model is a common model where both comment and home controllers uses in order to deal with the database. Comment view shows the detailed page of a particular link. In comment view, users can comment on a link and reply for a particular comment. So for that view, comment JavaScript have been introduced to the system. All the requests are going through that JavaScript using Ajax calls. Comment controller uses the comment model in order to deal with the database. All the comments and replies are going to store in the database via this model. This model holds the methods for features such as add comments, add replies, get comments, and finally get replies. Now I'm going to explain about how I implemented my application according to the database and class diagram as we discussed earlier. When a particular user registers into the system via login screen register form, user details will be stored in the user table. In this table, first name, last name, email, password, date of birth, and profile picture will be saved. In the login view, we have login form where user can place their user credentials. Both login and register forms are pointing towards the login controller since it acts as a common control in here. Then, login controller uses the sign model to deal with the database. All the login validation and registration validations are happening in the login controller. When the user is valid, login controller then navigates the user to the home controller while creating the new user session in order to keep the user activity in a higher manner. Home control initially loads the home view for the user. It has all the requirements as asked for the coursework. In this page load level, home controller contacts the user model in order to grab the user details to show in the view. Number of comments for a link is gathered by counting the corresponding records in the comment table. To make the user placed vote prominent, it's used a vote table. This concludes the page load level of the home view. When a user submits a link, it validates all the fields using JavaScript methods. When a valid link submission occurs, it will pass to the home controller. In this control, it will find the post model and save it in the database. After that, records will be sent back to the home controller via post model. In order to append the newly added link, home controller contains a method. That method creates HTML view. Created HTML view then be passed to the JavaScript as a JSON. From the JavaScript, it will bind to the HTML. When a user votes for a link, it will take the corresponding link ID and send to the home controller via AJAX call. Home control will then be called in the post model and update the link table vote count and will add a new record to the vote table with the user ID and link ID. After that, model saves and status will be sent to the controller. If the status is true, controller will then pass the status to the JavaScript again. Then from the JavaScript, vote sound clip will be played once and vote icon will be prominent by adding a class. User can sort displayed links by dates or number of votes, as well as user can manage through links. In order to accomplish these two tasks, system used custom methods inside the home control. These methods takes the number of links per page and sort type, whether it's sorted by date or sorted by number of votes. After that, home controller will then be called in the post model with the inputted parameters. Inside this post method, getLinks method will be called with the inputted parameters. Inside the method, a query will be executed in order to do the sort mechanism as well as pagination and send the result back to the view via home controller. When a user clicks on the image of the link, it will be navigated to the detail page of the link. This page has been defined as a comment view since main requirement of this page is to comment. When a user places an invalid comment, user will be tossed with an error message. If the comment is a valid comment, then AJAX call request will be sent to the home controller via comment JavaScript. In here, comment controller will be taking the user details and link details in order to save the comments in the comment table. In this comment table, there are fields to hold the user ID and link ID, and they are acting as foreign keys. In the comment view, user allows to reply for existing comments. This task has been accomplished by creating a child table called nComments. nComment refers to nested comments and it holds user replies for a comments. When user submits a valid reply for a comment, it will be called the comment controller's custom method. This method contains three parameters, respectively link ID, comment ID, and reply consent. After that, the initially stated session will be reused in here in order to take the user details. Then these will be recorded under the nComment table. Let's take a brief look at MVC structure of the implemented application. MVC design pattern has three components, respectively model, view, and controller. These components have their own characteristics and behaviors. Model represents the data manipulation. View represents the information to the user, while controller controls interaction between view and model. This table shows the MVC components of the implemented application. Under models, we have side model, user model, post model, and comment model. In views, we have login view, home view, and comment view. Under controllers, we have login control, home control, and finally comment control. Finally, I would like to finish by thanking you for your attention.